Good morning, councillors. Welcome back from your little midterm break. So welcome to staff and members of the public and those listening in at home. We'll call for apologies for this Three Waters Committee meeting. Mr.
Councillor Todd and Councillor Mackle. Councillor Todd's on the committee, Councillor Mackle's not, but he's unwell today, so he won't be at any meetings
and
today.
Councillor Brahm as well. Someone like to move we accept those apologies?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Second. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'd just like to advise we do have an item of extraordinary business, and it's going to be a verbal update on a trade waste discharge, which we're going to take as item 13 in public excluded. Would someone like to move, please, that we accept that item of extraordinary business? Councillor Hooper, Councillor Lovett, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Any declarations of interest today? No. Confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the 25th of June. Any amendments there? Okay. Someone like to move, please, then, that we accept those minutes? Councillor Hooper, Councillor McMillan, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to hand over to, once again, our three wise gentlemen, and they'll take us through today's meeting and just make sure you ask any questions that you have. Thank you, the floor is yours.
So the outline for today follows the agenda. So the first item will be item 5 relating to Keenans Road water main extension. And then we'll just do what we have done at previous meetings, run through the agenda as provided. So item 5 is the Keenans Road water report. I don't believe we've got anything else to add. The only matter I would like to raise, just while we talk about the report, there was a discussion when we were preparing the report around our treatment of interest costs. Now, we have proceeded with the report in accordance with all other water reticulation extensions that we've done in the last sort of 5 or so years. And that is to leave the interest component out of the ratepayer, the connecting parties cost. But we will be looking to bring that back as a topic for discussion with council at a future time, probably in conjunction with the rating and revenue and financing policy, because there is a view that we should be recovering those interest costs as part of the connection fee.
So at the moment, those interest costs just fall into the group supply as an overall charge?
Yeah, that's correct. So what you see in front of you is pretty much stock standard, the way we've approached all other reticulation extensions for the last sort of 5 or so years.
Okay. Councillor Lovett.
The sum each property owner has to pay, will that be a sum straight away, or will they be able to pay that off, portioned out over a number of years like we did in previous schemes? I think Rakaia was one of those many years ago.
Typically we expect that payment up front as a lump sum at the start. I'm aware that certainly the Rakaia situation was a particular case, but for these lower numbers we're talking about, it's usually just done as a cost. People pay it up front. In some cases, I'm aware finance has previously allowed them 12 months interest-free, but I don't know if that's still the case.
I was thinking if there's anyone with hardship there, that you could work out some plans for them to be able to hook on and pay it off if there was anybody there who was struggling, that you would see fit to look at that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, what's the zoning of that parcel of land?
It's residential D.
which means you can subdivide down to 4,000 squares. can you subdivide down there and build a house on it? And get a effluent discharge consent?
No.
I think at the moment, I understand there's a bit of a struggle to get discharge consents.
Yeah. So, in the report, you've talked about 53 sites you're costing it over. Yet there's not 53 houses there. So why are you using 53 sites to push it over?
It was really just trying to come up with an equitable way of dealing with the divisor. If we used the number of houses there, it means those properties would be, the cost of the connection would be pretty astronomical. It could be argued that they are the benefiting parties, the people with the larger blocks of land, and so they will get it back at some point in the future. But we were trying to find a sweet spot in terms of what is reasonable in terms of connection cost.
I'm struggling with 53 lots, which you might be 100, 200 years before you get 53 lots there. Council will never ever get its money back fully, I wouldn't think, because of the amount of subdivision that probably won't happen there. Yeah, I'm just struggling with 53, and finding what the rationale is for it. I don't think there won't be 53 connections over time. It'll be a long, long time, I think.
It certainly would be the longer term. What we do tend to find, though, with these zones is that we're using a zone max now based on what's possible under this zoning,
Yeah.
but we can't preempt what the zone might be in the future. And as development goes out from the town, this area could change in terms of its density.
We're doing some work on wastewater reticulation out there at the moment. Is it likely that this area will get wastewater as well in the future?
Well, that's a decision for council, ultimately. We're not far away from bringing that report back to council for consideration as to whether or not it would be a future project.
Because if we had wastewater that would provided available for, then it could be subdivided down to 53 lots, and then I could work with 53 lots then, because it's actually likely that it will happen, but at the moment it's not until the wastewater thing is sorted out. But like the idea of putting the water out there, it's just how you divide it up is where I'm struggling with.
I believe at the moment you need to put holding tanks in if you're going to subdivide, and yeah, there's a bit of pushback on that, so yeah. Any further questions? No? Okay.
If you divided the cost, which is 600,000 or whatever it is, to put the reticulation in, how many houses are there now? Is it 12 or?
I think we wrote to 17,
17.
something like that, properties, yeah. The numbers in there. Sorry, 21 properties.
21, so that's 30,000 a house approximately, is a connection. Yeah. Which is probably still cheaper than putting a well down the depth to get cleaner water. Yeah. But then if you do subdivide in the future, yeah. It just doesn't fit either way at the moment for me.
I think and I think the problem is we've been out for consultation with these costs and had the feedback, because it is very cheap. I was just saying, Mount Summers now, you know what, if you want to build up there, you've got to pay 21,000 or something, because, development contribution, Councillor Wilson.
I think we need to recognise that this is solving a problem for those people. It's not a, sometimes you can say, oh, it's not a want to have. These people need this water, therefore they need to pay for it, because as a rural person, I'm building a house on the farm, and we've got to put water in, we've got to put piping, and it'll cost at least this, if not more. And we've got to do the upkeep forever, it'll be more. We've got to get a consent at 10,000. The costs are enormous. So for these people, it's actually quite a bargain, I would say, to have clean, fresh water that's fully compliant. You know, when you're in quite a difficult area to get fresh water because of the many reasons, So I think we need to be careful that we're not, and I do disagree with it, with the 53, because I think that if you went for the 21, it works out at $23,214 on 21. And obviously looking at the map, some are quite big areas, so potentially in the future you would assume once you have fresh water, clean water, that does help your property value quite a bit, because it's something that would be sitting on your limb. If I was buying a house, it'd be number one, and then number two would be sewerage. You know, and that's, so I think we just have to be careful that we're not gifting these landowners such a good deal because we feel sorry for them when it is quite a good deal we're offering. I'd be perhaps pushing a wee bit harder deal.
Mr Mayor.
Yeah, this is going to be a recommendation to council, and when it gets there, it might change. I think, as Councillor Wilson says, this is adding value to those properties, and it'll make them more easily subdividable with the service there. So I'm pretty sure that the cost of it is divided over the 21 houses, not 53.
Hamish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the way that we were looking at this in terms of the length of time it might take to development was where we then turned our attention to the cost of the debt, and if it stayed at 53 and it takes many decades to fully subscribe, then the cost of carrying that capital cost is borne by everyone else as opposed to those who will ultimately benefit, and that was one of the reasons we turned our attention to, well, how do we deal with the cost of servicing the debt? And so that may or may not be something that council wishes to consider, as well as whether the divisor is right, because the longer it runs, of course, the more other people are bearing the cost.
So, just to clarify, if this changed, I think we'd have to go back to the community again, wouldn't we? I don't think after consulting with them and giving them a price of X and then suddenly it changes to Y, I think we'd have to go back to see if there was still the buy-in, would we? Or,
Yeah, I think we'd have no option.
yeah, okay. Do you want to?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I can't see that letter, sorry, I haven't got it up on screen, but you've gone out and said it'll be $9,198 plus GST for the connection. What, so that's for the 21 lots, say there's a few more subdivisions, etc. What is the development contribution for water on those properties now? Is it
$1,900, was it?
so would you add that to the 9,000 going forward? Is that how that would work? Yep.
Yeah, the DC, the Ashburton DC gets applied as well as the reticulation recovery fee.
Okay, so Councillor Lovett.
I was just thinking, this is one cost to this group of people, and you're saying we're going to be looking at putting sewage there at the moment. Any new house in here, I think they've got to have a holding tank, so that's actually going to be another cost on top of them. And I'm thinking the costs are going to get too high, so I think we've got to be reasonable. We've gone out and said this to them, this is the cost. I think we've got to be fair, do we not? And otherwise it might get prohibitive with their costs. So I can just see this piece of land with a lot more housing on it in the future, where we will capitalise on our money, our investment. Yeah.
Councillor Wilson?
Could you just if I did the maths right, 21 at 9,198 is 193,000. That leaves 293,842 to be carried by the council until the future. If you divided that by the total amount in the district water scheme, what would that be per supply? So how many? What's the approximate number of district water supply ones? 10,000. 10,000. Well, I said 11. Pardon?
Sorry, Councillor, that calculation's in the finance section. I think we talk about the impact on the group rate
Yeah.
So it's $3,
Which is the interest, isn't it?
$3.30, effectively, yeah.
It's not the capital. The capital, that's what I was sort of saying, is $20 a head with a one-off shop that everybody in Ashburton is borrowing to fund this. That was the number I was coming up with.
Councillors, we have a recommendation there to council. Does someone like to move that or make an amendment to it before it goes to council, or let it go to council and then be debated? Councillor Lovett.
I'm actually quite happy to move what we got at the recommendation sitting in front of us. I think it's the start of a journey on this this block of land, and I can see why you've gone out with this cost, because hopefully we will see future development which will claw back, and yeah.
So you're moving that the recommendation as is, Councillor McMillan?
I'm happy to second it because I think it needs to go to council to be debated, full council.
Yeah, thank you. Any further,
Just,
Mayor?
I'm out of order, but just have a further question.
Yes, no, I'll allow.
Yeah, when we connected Tate's Road on many years ago, what did we do there? How did we charge for that? Can you recall?
I know it was more than the number of properties that existed at the time. It was a future development level, but I just can't remember offhand what that number was.
Could you find that report and have that attached to this report when it goes to council to give us some steer on what we did?
Yes,
10 years ago it might
it's a while ago, yes.
be. A while ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Tate's Road.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further debate? If not, I'll put the recommendation, which is just to take this to council, and then we can. Are you okay? Yep. Okay. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you.
We are just looking for one more attendee here, Hernando, but we are proceeding with the Three Waters Operation and Maintenance Report. Mainly an update in regards of Ocean Farm and in regards of the CRMs we have received. Mainly, do you have any questions to what we have provided to you in the report in regards of these topics?
Mr. Mayor.
Just on the Tynwald situation of, you found a photo, there's a photo of a gutter going straight into a sewer, which is not supposed to happen. Has that instance been happened since we had the Right Height project? Is that one of the ones that would have been visited?
Yeah, so the difficulty with the projects like the Right Pipe is that it's actually an ongoing thing. You effectively have to keep doing the exercise. What tends to happen is that people's on-property so-calls fail at some point, and then they're looking for a solution. And when they find out how much it's going to cost to try and dig a new so-call, they try and look for the easier option in some cases. And I think that's what's happened here. We have an interesting issue also with new development, new houses. And that is that at the time the building team are signing off the property, invariably there's not much landscaping done. So it's very easy for them to sign off a gully trap as being compliant under the building code, but then subsequently the actual landscaping occurs, the paths are put in, the gardens are put in, and then that gully trap can then be non-compliant. So we're chasing a tail all the time.
Yeah, you see at the photo, so there are various houses. That's not a single occurrence, though that's in a higher scale in regards of discharges from roof runoff directly into the gully trap, which means this goes directly into the sewer network. Here are two examples. We have taken away the street name, but we will provide you with a full list through Stella that you can have a look on your own as well. And what Andy mentioned before, we have as well low-lying gully traps. This is a development which is a little bit older, but you see if we have a heavy rainfall event, you will get directly discharged from stormwater into the wastewater network. And that's a newer development, what Andy just mentioned. The gully trap is built, and then they are doing the landscaping, and the gully trap is too low. That is only the part which is sitting on private property. Then going ahead, we have further issues in regards of the high groundwater table, where we get inflow and infiltration into the wastewater network itself through the pipework and through the manholes. Do we have that video available? Yeah. We show you just one video in regards how it looks like if we are getting inflow through a manhole, that you get a little bit of a feeling how much that could be with the high groundwater level we have.
Hopefully I'm not going to blast sound everywhere.
Normally it would be great to have the sound on it as well. It's gushing into that manhole through the joints you see on the sides, and that's quite a really fair amount, which causes some stress on our wastewater network.
So you're seeing water jets coming in through the joins of the manhole rings.
This has a follow-on effect. Maybe we go back to the slides onto the wastewater treatment plant at Wilkins Road as well. I'm nearly there. This is a chart in regard of the inflow into Wilkins Road wastewater treatment plant. You see in the months of March and April, we had less than 10,000 cubes per day throughout that heavy rain event. Thank you, Andy. We have seen a massive spike up to 40,000 cubes per day into the plant, and this is where we are sitting now. So with a high groundwater table, and we had quite a while no rain apart from today, we are still sitting on 15,000 cubic meters per day through high groundwater table. We have put a piezo in Tynwald now to get a better understanding how the groundwater behaves out there. At the time, we were just less than 1 meter below ground. At the moment, we are sitting around about 2.1 meter, but our wastewater network is sitting 3 meters below ground, and the manholes as well. So you see this is the impact which will this have onto the plant. This feeds then as well into the discharge site on Ocean Farm, what we discussed in regards of the disposal and the irrigation purposes, and coming back to that wastewater strategy. So this is now out on the market per today on Tenderlink. These are the time frames, and the first item of the rank, what we would like to get out of that exercise is really an interim modeling report for Tynwald to get a better understanding how the system behaves and where do we need to do upgrades and maybe renewals in the future. So we would like to test here the network in regards, is it correctly sized in regards of what we have already in regards of residential developments out there? What does it mean if we are seeing high rain events on the network itself, where we need to see upgrades or renewals, which means as well that we maybe need to review our renewals program for year 3 in the long-term plan and ongoing. At that point of time, we haven't done a lot or nearly nothing in regards of renewals in Tynwald. We were mainly concentrating on the Ashburton side of it. So maybe we need to shift our focus in that regard. And this is coming back to that wastewater strategy. And you see the timelines, what we have here in mind in regards to get a better understanding how we would like to manage our wastewater network in the future.
Mr Mayor, did you have a?
Yeah, I've got a question. So when you get a rainfall event like today's happening, do you find the same things happening at Methven and Riccara?
In partial, but not as extreme as we have it here at the moment.
So you're doing some work here to look at council's network to try and solve it, keep the water out. So that how are you going to manage the on-property ones which they get altered over time? How do you plan to manage that so that doesn't happen, like coming off the roof and into the sewer, like we saw some photos
Yeah,
of?
so that
How are
needs
you
to
gonna
be
manage that?
absolutely. So that needs to be addressed. So we will go out now to the property owners, explain the situation, and we are working as well closely with the building team, with Michael's team to address that, because this sits under the Building Act.
Oh, yeah. And there's all those ones you don't know about as well. How do you manage them?
This is all be done through investigations and going on the property and explain what we want to do. So we have done a letter drop at Tynwald, and we visited each single property out there.
So would you look at using like varsity students again, maybe to do a bit of work in Tynwald like you did with the Right Pipe project?
We haven't made any firm decisions on how we might approach that. I do remember a time many decades ago where we actually used smoke testing to identify illegal connections. And that's sort of a wee bit quicker because we can operate in the network and then start looking at roof lines for smoke.
Cool. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Totally different subject, but I'm just looking at the report, and you've got all the CRMs listed there in the location. What are the locations in red? What does that mean? Is that a decrease from last month?
Through the chair, the red indicates where the CRMs are higher.
But you've got Hines and Springfield both highlighted in red, and they're at 0%.
Yeah.
So that's just why I couldn't understand it.
The Hines probably should not be red.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Lovett.
Just going back to the property owners with your pipe work, I was just thinking, because, we're looking at climate change and everything, is it worth having conversations with them if they don't want to get diggers in digging soak holes? Perhaps they should be looking at rain harvesting and putting a tank there and using that water over the summer periods to water their gardens, just turning that thing around to more sustainability and stuff.
Absolutely, I fully agree with that. Though we need to look in different options. I think over the last 10 years, the work done in Tynwald, and now with the change around climate change, around groundwater table rising, that so-called are not longer working properly, and we need to work with them to find a solution to get this out of our wastewater network.
The other question I had was going to Ocean Farm. You've got a lot of grazing lambs down there, and I was reading the program, what you're doing, and you're only regrassing some low spots or mounds. I didn't see anything about regrazing that whole property, and I was thinking if the time's up for really it should be regrassed, and that will help suck up the nitrogen levels and stuff. And I thought, when's that going to be on the
That's the plan, what we have, and we are promising, we are coming back to you to get your experience as well. We have the old grass classifications, what was done in the past, but we will come back to you in regards of special matter experts and get your experience into it as well, not as a councillor, but as really as a specialist in that field. We will come back to you on that.
grazing lambs need good grass.
In addition, we already had a meeting with Townsend last week and asked him what the quality of grass he has been getting from, and he said that there's actually a change in the quality of grass in the past few years, and that's why we have also asked him advice on what kind of grass we should be sitting in.
Welcome, Jono. Councillor Hooper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just following on from Mayor Brown's questioning, so can you guys see excessive stormwater breaches into wastewater at the road or in a certain area, and then you go and investigate the properties, or is it a bit of sort of guesswork?
Yeah, well, I mean, it differs in terms of your approach, but the smoke testing is one thing that has been used in the past, and that can be accomplished out on the road.
Right.
And the idea is that what the contractor does is they'll put seal off the venting on the terminal vent of the properties for a block or so, and then they'll do the smoke testing. And if smoke appears out of the roof line, it's usually because it's got a downpipe connected. So that's sort of it's pretty old school stuff,
Yeah.
but it's still a functional method.
And the other method we were looking into at the moment in regards where we see that we're getting throughout rain events high inflow into the network, to put a device into the manhole to see how quick the wastewater rises in that manhole, to identify the catchment where it's coming from. We are at the moment we got a costing which is not acceptable for us, so we need to look for a different solution on that.
I can assure you if it's not acceptable to you, it won't be acceptable to us, so thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Just that graph you put up before it, if I've got the numbers right, it said we were about 10,000 cubes a day was going through the network. Then you had this spiking up to 40,000 cubes. Then very quickly it reduced back to 20 or so, and that's my broad brush numbers. So that shows me that the rain is not causing it. So on property putting in, that's just a red herring. That doesn't matter, because if you look at the first one, you've got 3 or 4 days of rain, and then it stops raining. Therefore, the guttering going into it makes absolutely no difference. It's purely, our problem is a groundwater infiltration. So really, chasing all the houses up will only save you those few days at the start, but the rest of it's a bigger problem, you could say. And so for that, and then if you jump to the one here with the strategy, we're going to go out and do a strategy, and I would have thought they'll need to know be able to, if we've got good monitoring of it with water meters and stuff to see what is actually going through the system, so that they can do a strategy, because that's my question. Do we have good metering of it, how much the water is, or is it just what comes out the end? You can't do a strategy without knowing what you're going to.
No, we don't have metering in place on that at the moment, but this is what we are looking for, to find a proper, acceptable as well financial solution for it. Coming back to your point in regards from the private property perspective, you are right in regards of a rainfall event, but when you see a high groundwater table, which is sitting less than 1 meter below ground, you see as well high inflow and infiltration through the private wastewater network coming into the wastewater as well. So it's not only the roof runoff you are getting as well through the pipework around the house inflow into the wastewater network when the groundwater table is high.
There was I'd perhaps just take to task, we're trying to blame it on greenhouse changes and climate change, but I think many people who have lived in Timor a long time would say that a lot of those areas were wetter in the past. It's not any wetter, so we shouldn't be saying that this is a problem that's probably been there forever, but it's just reared its head at the moment because we've had more infill and more growth rather than I wouldn't have said it's a change, because Timor's always been quite wet, and some of those locations weren't built on because of you wouldn't build a house here because it's too wet. Now we've built a house, this is the problem we're having.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. I'm allowed to ask a question, aren't I? Because I'm not in the committee here. Just a segue from that. When you talk, it's not illegal to put your stormwater into your wastewater, is that correct? It's not illegal.
It's illegal.
It is illegal.
Yep.
So we need to probably make that clear, don't we?
Correct.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of stormwater goes into wastewater.
Yeah, it's effectively an offence under our bylaw, our wastewater
So when
bylaw.
people are washing their cars in their front yard, where is that going into, the leftover water? That would go into their,
It could be going anywhere.
yeah,
It could be going into the stormwater network in
That's
some
right.
cases.
yeah. We probably need to do some sort of information about that and just advise people what it costs to treat our wastewater, and that if we're getting unnecessary volume in there, the impact of that on the local, on the ratepayer. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Just quickly, if I may, Mr.
Sorry,
Chair.
councillor Hooper.
If just following on from Carolyn's questioning, so when you come across a property that is illegally discharging, is there get this sorted in 7 days' notice, and then we're going to fine you? What's the process?
Yeah, well, Hernando's got a staff member whose role is to do that compliance and bylaw enforcement. So that would be exactly what I would expect to be happening.
One more question. Is that staff member employed exclusively for that job or other jobs? Like, is there a
There's a number of other functions
okay,
with that
because I
role.
was saying we'd want to recoup that cost through some sort of fees or something.
Have we actually ever fined someone?
I've been here a long time. I don't recollect it ever happening.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Coming back to projects, a little bit of an update in regards of the UV installation and the compliance with drinking water standards. Package 1, though we have finished and commissioned Mayfield and Hines. Part of that package 1 is as well Tremor. We are in the final negotiations around the land use out there, so we got promised it will be happening by the end of this week, so I will report back to you on that. This could mean slightly that we are not finishing Tremor before Christmas. We are in contact with the contractor at the moment. The UV is in the country. We have prepared everything to do that. Normally we wanted to start at the beginning of July. But I will report back on that one when we have a little bit more at hand.
Mr Mayor, you just got a question on that?
Yeah, the 25-26 rural water pipeline renewals and was awarded to Fulton Hogan on page 16. It says the Taverners Road one at Drumore. We were going to go and talk to them and see if they actually required that pipeline to be renewed. If they required the service, there's not many houses down that road, and I think it was a huge cost. You could probably tell us what the cost was to renew it, and did they actually want it renewed? Because it just, for the cost and the number of houses, it seemed excessive when they have alternative water sources.
Through the chair, we have reached out to the last property on the Taverners Road line, and they're still willing to connect to the system. That's why we have to continue with our renewals plan.
What's the cost of that Taverners Road pipeline renewal?
I think we will report back to you. We don't have it at the moment on the table, but
It's
you
just
will.
shy of $1 million, I think.
Through the chair, it's 1,008,580.
How many properties connected on that Taverners Road pipe?
I don't have the property numbers.
You get back to us with that.
Yep, absolutely.
It would only be 5, I would think. Ish.
You might be right. Yep.
It is $200,000 renewal program warranted. I've raised this months ago, and we're now doing it. Is it wise spent, the prudent spending of money when they do have alternative water sources, or do they have alternative water sources?
So, Mr Mayor, you're asking for some more information around that and just,
And may I make a comment? Oh, see,
The tender may have been let.
yes.
it would be good to know if they do have alternative water sources, or can we support the investigation into alternative water sources? Because that's a lot of money.
As we said, has the tender for that been let, has it?
Yes.
Yes.
The tender's already been let.
And is awarded, yeah.
So it's committed. Councillor Wilson.
Could we going forward, because obviously we're investigating the alternative supply use in Montalto where you treated source, could we nail that down so that in future when we that's one of the alternatives A, B and C effectively to doing the pipeline, not doing the pipeline, or putting an alternative source in which could then be, would that be allowable to, if we could get a good package in place, I mean we don't have to put these pipelines in, we can use existing water or do some different options?
A really good point, needs to be discussed as well under the Local Government Act, because we are supplying at the moment the properties with water, and that's not an easy task to say we disconnect you. So that needs to be addressed then accordingly, because we are providing a service to them and they are paying for that.
Councillor Cameron.
Through the chair, and not intending to be argumentative, I think we don't need to disconnect them, but we are exploring other options to make sure people have clean drinking water in other parts of our community that don't involve that level of investment. So I think we still need to keep that in mind, that's a lot of money. That's 2% on our rates, essentially. I mean, I know it's capital, but,
Thank you.
Further to the re-upgrades, Argyll Park will be commissioned by the 29th of August, so much earlier than expected, which is great. Bridge Street, it's part of that package 1 as well, will be commissioned short before Christmas. In package 2, we have finalized Tynwald and Ricaya. They are all commissioned. Chertsey is just under construction and will be commissioned in October. The last of the rank will be then Domain, and will be as well finished before Christmas. The only outstanding one would then be maybe Tremor, and we discuss Montalto a little bit later in the presentation.
Mr. Mayor.
On page 20 of our Stella, there's a table there in the last 10 years of renewals that you have done on the network, and it's good information. But the question I've got is, are we renewing fast enough? Because if you look at the number of percentage of pipes renewed for a length of pipe we've got, we're still perhaps taking up to 100 years to renew. Is that right?
Yeah, looking at those stats, you'd want them a bit higher than they are. Wastewater's not far away from probably where it should be, but water looks like it's below where we need to be.
Yeah. So we need to address that.
Yeah.
Great.
Councillor Wilson.
The advanced water metering trial, is the meters data at 30 to 60 minute intervals, is that ambitious enough? Because I would have thought instantaneous flows would have been the standard. It is in the irrigation world, that's the requirement to be instantaneous. So I'm just surprised that that the technology is only capturing it that, it seems very last yearish.
It's a balance between battery power of those units. So the 30 to 60 minutes is basically trying to conserve the battery power for every one of those units in the network.
Yeah.
If we increase it to real time, then it'll drain it. Instead of getting 10 years life out of the battery, you might get 2.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a it's a trade-off.
Through the chair, and we are coming back to that, I'll give you a further update in regards of the advanced water metering trial.
Thank you.
I'll just proceed with the projects. So the water pipeline renewals, which was awarded to Runes, they have already started at Phillip Street and Tankard Street on the 7th of July, and the work has been progressing quite well since that time. With regards to the rural pipeline renewals, which was awarded to Fulton Hogan, as discussed earlier, we have reached out to the last property at Taverners Road, and they're still willing to connect to the system. That's why we decided to continue with the actual length that needs to be renewed. Fulton Hogan is already on the Midwinds section at Longsford and River Road, and they are already welding the pipes that will be laid in the next 2 weeks. Source water is.
The source risk management plans, so this is waiting for our internal resources become available again. We're fully occupied at the moment with end-of-year reporting, so we're looking to commence that work probably around mid-August.
With regards to the backflow investigations and implementation, we already have hired a person to continue what our student had already done the previous months. So Ian Pringle has started on Monday, and we have contracted him to work until December this year to complete all the investigations that will continue in Ashburton, Rakaya, and Mithven. So he will be looking at properties, firstly with trade waste permits to see whether they have the appropriate backflow prevention devices, and if time permits, we will also continue with houses that have swimming pools, because they are also supposed to have backflow prevention in their system. So this is an example of a non-testable dual check valve. What's are required for properties that are low hazard? When you say low hazard, it means that there's the possibility that that property will have no nuisance to the water, like it will change the odor, the color, or the taste of the water if there will be backflow from that property. So this is what a medium, a double testable check valve for medium hazards. Medium means that there is the possibility for injury, or it will endanger the life of the users of our water if a backflow comes from that property. And for high hazards, we require reduced pressure zone backflows. High hazards means that there's the possibility of death if a backflow will happen from that property, which is probably companies in the industrial estates.
We have a couple of questions. So why are swimming pools deemed a higher risk and need a backflow preventer?
Because they are low risk, but they will have the possibility of altering the quality of our water in the system.
So the difference between a swimming pool and a spa pool? And I know it's easy to know who's got swimming pools because you need fencing permits and things, but I would have said now spa pools were far more prevalent than swimming pools ever were, and I would have thought the same low-level risk would apply.
It's definitely related to the size of it, what can happen. And clearly a spa pool on a private property could be as well cause some harm, but it's a bigger risk with a big swimming pool in regard of the volumes you are getting then into the network.
Councillor Wilson.
I'm sorry to go back, it's just the source water risk management plans. I'd just like us to keep a close eye on that, because ECAN is being particularly unreasonable with land users renewing their land use consents. And this is a classic case of if we don't match the two, so obviously we need to make sure the balance between land use and SW, the source water RMA zones is maintained. And what I'm meaning with that is if some had their way, they would make the zones very large and very restrictive on land use in those areas. So we don't want to be the conduit to do that, because we are a farming area still. So I just want to keep an eye on that one doesn't do this, and that's has adverse impacts on our economic development in the areas.
Look, happy to take that on board, Councillor, but also just recognising that the work we're doing is about protecting the risk to our water supplies. So that will be our primary focus. But certainly how we engage with the rural community, we'll certainly take that on board.
Mr Mayor.
Just thinking about the backflow preventers on the network in regard to swimming pools. We inspect swimming pools every 3 years for fencing. So would that person who does that inspection not do the backflow inspection at the same time?
Through this year, yes, that can be done. That's why we have taken out pools at the moment. We're just concentrating on businesses with trade waste permits, but if we are allowed, if time allows, then we can continue with houses with pools. But at the moment, we don't concentrate on houses with pools because exactly we can do that during when they renew their fencing permits.
It's worth noting too, the purpose of the resource at the moment is to create this first inventory, because we're required to have a register of all of these devices. So this is about meeting another rule in the quality assurance rules.
Thank you.
So with regards to the leak detection, we have identified 103 leaks during the last time, and all those leaks have already been repaired by ACL as of to date. So we're just looking forward to the next year's leak detection result.
Just budget-wise with that, because with this time we found more than we expected, and so the cost to repair them was a bit higher. Going forward, have you upped that budget line in that area? So just, we're not behind the 8 ball, I suppose.
It's fair to say I didn't, because that information really came in quite late. But certainly for future budgets, we'll be looking at it closely.
Thank you. Councillor McMillan. Oh. He jumps to the top. Yeah.
Okay. Just a question on the leak detection. So there were quite a few, obviously, in Methven, but I thought when we put the water meters in, that picked up quite a few leaks. So is that on top of the ones that were picked up a couple of years ago, or are they on our network, or where have the leaks? Are they new leaks?
Yeah, so the leaks that were identified through the leak detection, there were two types of leak. There were the stuff that on the public network that we have to deal with, and that's what we're reporting here. There were a number of other sites identified on private property that had potential leaks, but that's all we can flag to the people at that point, because we actually can't guarantee it's a leak. It could just be a flow through the meter at the time that the landowner was or the leak detection took place.
Hamish?
I think, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to duck back to the budget question that was asked. And one of the things that a council will shortly see will be the Water Services Delivery Plan, which is essentially the pathway to establishing the standalone business unit for the future delivery water services. And as our knowledge grows around compliance and as the situation becomes clearer, we are seeing that the Water Service Delivery Plan is contemplating budgetary impact greater than council's currently got in their LTP, and that was utterly inevitable. And we said that through that work, that when you're moving into a new environment where the Commerce Commission exists and it didn't previously, where Te Mata Aroai are continuing to develop their regulations, that the costs of delivering water can only go up regardless of the way in which water is delivered structurally. And so indeed we are seeing that in the preparation of the Water Services Delivery Plan. And so the budget in the LTP is simply not going to provide for the cost of delivering water services in the future.
Thank you, Hamish. Maybe in addition to what Andy just mentioned before, we have the water meters in Methven, but we are doing approximately a reading every 3 months. Coming back now to the advanced water metering and the point Richard made before, that we are now getting then through that event 30-minute reading on the next day, which gives us a much, much better indication how much water is used on a private property. And you see as well, you can address alarms as well when you see water usage is happening between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, where normally people not using water, that there is a leakage on private property, and that can be addressed much, much quicker. Yeah, coming back to the smart water metering with IntelliUp, we shared with you on Stella as well the memorandum of understanding. We have signed as well an NDA because there are commercially sensitive information in there as well. So we need to keep it that way. We had a meeting just on the 18th of July with IntelliUp, and they had meetings on site to get an understanding for Rakaya, where we want to put 350 meters in regards of the communication from the meter to get that data and make that data available, though there needs to be some more work to be done from IntelliUp. They are in discussions with Spark to provide a better service in that regards. And we are coming back to you on that. Additionally, the installation of the water metering will sit with us. So we will go out on the market shortly, and we will come back after tendering that in regards of the budget requirements we will see based on that trial here in Rakaya.
Hamish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just given that NDA and given the confidential nature of the information, could I perhaps request that if councillors do want to explore this pilot program in more detail, that they defer questioning it until the public excluded portion of this meeting?
All happy?
Cool. Thank you.
So I'll continue with the Rakaya wastewater treatment plant control panel upgrade. So we received 5 tenders for this project, and we already have identified a preferred supplier, and their recommendation to award will be prepared and signed by Neil and Hamish. With the Great Chamber pipeline renewals, the project is now 100% complete. We're just working with ACL with some documentary requirements to be able to issue the practical completion for the project. The wastewater pipeline renewals, True Line Civil will start 11th of August, and they're just trying to prepare their traffic management plan and their environmental management plans to be submitted to us for approval.
Northeast Ashburton wastewater. So the consultant is going to be providing a summary report on the servicing options and high-level cost implications for each of those options. The committee has requested we bring that to council as soon as possible. We anticipate the draft report will be available for officer review towards the end of August, and then following that we'll finalise and pick a time to bring it to council. The industrial site stormwater risk prioritisation work, we've now got a date with our consultant to help us with the field inspections. They're programmed for the 19th of August. Again, the people involved in that are tied up with end of year reporting. So that's hopefully by that stage we'll be free of that.
So with regards to the Proctor Park fencing installation, the fence has already been installed.
Mr. Mayor.
Just on the industrial sites stormwater risk, could you just give us a little bit more detail, refresh us as to what's happening there, what that project is?
Yeah, so as part of our resource consent for the stormwater discharge in Ashburton, we have a condition that we're required to identify the top 10 sites that may be high risk in terms of contamination to stormwater. We've gone through an exercise of developing a template for that, or a process for that. And I think I circulated to the committee the top 10 list and the framework, if you like. So this is now the business end of that process. We're now actually going to do the field inspections to verify the information we've got, whether the sites do in fact pose a risk or not. So it's been desktop till now, and now we're into the field part of that process.
Councillor Wilson.
I note the fencing of the Proctor Road fencing station made national news. So because of that, you know, which is fine, we've done that. Will every subdivision that has one of those have to fence it? Because obviously we're going to, you know, this you can't do something and just say, well, that's finished, because that you've set a precedent for every single one now to potentially do it. So I'm just
No,
concerned.
it's a risk assessment approach, and we have put that fence up on that line because there is a basketball hoop directly beside it, and we were concerned then in regards of what the public was saying as well, that balls could easily roll off into the pond, and we have not fully fenced the pond sides anyway. It's a risk assessment approach, and as well in regards of the depth of water levels. So this is what we are looking as well into the future into it. It's not fully fencing, but having a risk approach and address these issues.
Does that mean our planning department have been briefed on the circle of how this happened effectively, so that when someone puts a new subdivision in, you can't have effectively the playground
Sitting
too
in
close
our
to the-
team anyway, so we are keeping a close eye on that. Yes.
Hamish.
It's just to reinforce Ulrich's message that it was a project for the safety of this particular site, as opposed to setting a particular precedent around fences in all cases, etc., etc. So it was the proximity of the playground, the amount of water that was clearly being retained in that basin that gave rise to the fence in this instance.
The group manager reached out recently to Environment Canterbury to seek some discussions around stormwater and drainage going forward. I don't know whether the group manager would like to make a comment.
Yes, through the chair, as a consequence of the issues raised in the hearings we had on the climate change and sustainability consultation, we did mention that we're undertaking work in considering land drainage and stormwater issues going forward as being a major issue for us to focus on, along with ECAN. So I had an initial meeting with Environment Canterbury staff, and just to open the door and take the first step, and we'll be engaging with our team and their team soon just to discuss a district-wide approach on land drainage, particularly as it relates to not only stormwater but our stock water transition program as well. So they're very interested and very keen to work with us on that, and we'll be kicking that off in the next couple of weeks.
And then that report will come back to this committee as you work along
Correct,
with it.
yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Lovett.
Amongst all that, especially being at the bottom end of the district, did you have discussions about us not putting water down the drains and things and farmers filling them in? How you can prevent that, or was that
I think
part
that'll
of the
be part of
conversation?
that ongoing discussion once they...
Yeah, we didn't get into the detail. This is just a heads up, just to identify who the right people are to have around the table, from river engineers to land drainage, stormwater people, but we'll no doubt go through the issues as we meet.
That agenda.
Yes.
Good.
We'll do the asset management, and then after that we'll break for cuppa.
Look, I didn't want to spend too much time on this stuff, but happy to answer any questions. We have circulated, or at least there's a link to the Network Environmental Performance Report in the agenda. We had a look at the report. We were identified separately in 6 instances, and I've provided the details to what they pertain to. Certainly none of them necessarily were of a surprise, and I think some of them may be in error in terms of how they've interpreted our data. The construction rates review, we've gone back to Becca on their first draft report. We found the rates, there was quite a significant movement in the rates, so we've provided the most recent rate information from our recent tendering, and they're busy in the process of revisiting that work before we use it in our valuation exercise. And finally, I think we talked earlier about the pipeline renewal stats. I think if I was being a betting man, I would definitely say that we are behind in terms of our renewal program around drinking water, certainly. Happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions around that? Councillor Wilson?
Could you make a comment on, I know you've put a qualifier around it, but page 72, 73, they've compared residential water use connection per day at 413 litres per day. I'm just concerned that once those numbers start to be bandied around, they become very real. You know, because 413 is particularly low if you were looking at the amount of water used in a dry location where water is used for, you can't, I would have thought at 413 you can't water your garden effectively because you wouldn't have enough water. So I'm just concerned, we've got a high usage and we've got this big loss, but is that true, or is some of the loss actually being used? Without water metering, how do we know that's 400?
Yeah, look, I think our loss figure has always been a bit of an issue for us because we don't universally meter. And so until we have universal metering across Ashburton and Rakaia and all the rest of it, we're really reliant on a very coarse calculation. So yeah, I'd put a bit of a pin in that one for now.
Any further questions? All right, we'll break for 10-15 minutes for a cup of tea. Thank you. straight back over.
Thanks. So the drinking water compliance, the report that we've got here is now showing the first and second quarters of the 2025 reporting year. And as was sort of flagged previously, it's largely unchanged because a lot of the process stuff hasn't been sorted out at this point, and the capital upgrades are a work in progress. I just want to also just identify too that some of the capital projects that have been completed, there are a number of rules that they will benefit, but the reporting period for those rules is a full 12 months. So even though the equipment might be in place, we won't get the benefit of it from a compliance reporting standpoint until 1 January next year. Also provided a link to the drinking water regulation report. And again, this is, we looked at where we feature in that report. We were identified in 2 instances. The first one was laboratory notifications. So we had one detection in Montalto on the water supply. So that was the reason for that notification. There was also a list showing council supplies with long-term advisories, and Montalto featured in that list as well, because that spoiled water notice has been in place since 2018. So just quickly on the compliance monitoring and enforcement strategy for from TA. So they've released this to provide a bit of guidance around expectations for council supplies. One of the things that, or a number of the things I've identified, they've talked about fully complying with the rules of the acceptable solution and the associated reporting requirements, fully complying with the drinking water standards, responding promptly to drinking water safety risks and appropriate action, maintaining a robust risk management plans, including drinking water safety plans, and demonstrate progress towards resilience. In other words, planning for outages and significant hazardous events. I haven't got it on the slide, but basically on that same page that they provided us, it talks about how you will know if you're on the right track. And they've suggested that E. coli notifications are rare and promptly addressed. No long-term consumer advisories are in place. Comparing drinking water safety plans over time shows that we are taking action to manage key drinking water safety risks, and you fully comply with the rules, provide timely, accurate reporting. So that's what success looks like, and we've got that time frame in which to achieve it. So I think it's quite a helpful information from TA.
So, in your opinion, Andy, Montalto would be our highest risk factor for falling down somewhere in this area?
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, it's certainly still a flagged item, and it'll continue to be one until we've reached a satisfactory or found a satisfactory solution.
Yeah. So the trial on those units that you're going to install out there, I see you're not installing them till closer to Christmas, is it, or something?
We are working on that one. Maybe through the chair, a slide is coming up on Montalto specifically.
Yes, okay.
Maybe we can talk to that at that point. Thank you.
Sorry, just trying a different format in the slide here. So the first slide will deal with the new compliance matters that are arisen. That'll be through most recent CMRs. So we've had one compliance monitoring report received. This was for the Rakaia wastewater treatment plant, and it was assessed as non-compliant, no action required. No, so typically that means that we've had a non-compliance, but don't require any action to it for a number of reasons. One of it could no longer be, it could be no longer pertinent, or it's just redundant. So there's a number of reasons. The non-compliant conditions related to sludge being applied to land. So again, we've got rid of that. There was an assessment that we failed to notify of an exceedance. We're going to challenge that because there is actually no requirement. We have to provide the data within 10 working days, but we don't have any obligation to point out exceedances at that point. And also, there is another one around exceeding the fecal coliform limit. We have a requirement to test 2 times a year. We actually test monthly. And one of those monthly tests went over. So the strict reading of the rule, yes, we are non-compliant, but yeah, a bit frustrating. The one good thing about this particular CMR is that previously this particular consent, we only had 5 out of 27 conditions compliant, and now with the work of the staff and obviously the capital work, we're at 18 out of 27 conditions compliant. So a big improvement.
How urgent are those final 7, and is there a time frame for those, or are they?
I think from memory, some of them are just administrative conditions, and they don't always get looked at anyway. There's always a review clause. There's a few other bits and pieces in there that don't amount to much.
Yeah, thank you.
So the second slide is just dealing with the existing compliances that were already reported to the group. Happy to take any questions on this. What we have done though is the action plan is part of dealing with the significant non-compliance, and obviously part of the that non-compliant action required one as well. So the action plan has been updated slightly since I reported it to the committee last time. So I've included another copy in the agenda just to complete the exercise. So the council, the committee has the most recent action plan. We intend to report progress on those actions in the projects section of the reporting going forward.
Thank you. Any questions there? Oh, Councillor Lovett.
The wetlands down there, if they're not working, do we have to have them? Can we bypass that and not use them, or are we obliged to get them up and running or again, or?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, I mean, the strategy is the big thing that we're pinning our hopes on. It will do a lot of work, but there are some actions in the action plan that pertain to the wetland. What we need to do is carry out those investigations to work out what contribution the wetland is providing, and whether there are opportunities to bypass it or remove it entirely.
So there must be other councils that have wetlands, or are we kind of a minority, or?
I'm sure.
Is coming from, do they have them, or are we kind of?
Yeah, look, I'm sure there are other councils that are using wetlands. What we're trying to do here is just understand our particular wetland and what we can do to avoid these issues going forward.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Andy, what's a hydraulic model as far as the wetland goes? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so what we're trying to understand is that the wetland is intended to deal with 30,000 cubic metres of wastewater a day. So the pipeline into Ocean Farm can receive up to 48,000 thereabouts per day, and the wetland can do with 30. So then we end up overspilling, which we're allowed to do under our consent. We're authorised to do that. But if the wetland is under capacity, then the spillage becomes greater than we're permitted to, and that's what we're trying to address. So the modelling will just determine what is our current hydraulic capacity of the wetland, and see how far away from design it actually is. And that will then we'll be able to ask some questions around what we can do to restore it. If indeed we have to, because one of the attractive options is to bypass it altogether.
Thank you.
With the committee's indulgence, I would like to point out that my financial report was run on the 18th of July, prior to a lot of the June processing. So a lot of the information that I've provided here in my commentary in the report is probably outdated. So I'm not sure whether we may not be much worth going through it.
Yeah, through the chair. The most recent variance report that'll be coming out to council either later today or tomorrow has got all more updated information. And what we noticed, we received it yesterday, and we've noticed there's been an increase in the operating variance for drinking water and wastewater. And it's quite a sizable chunk, and we are working with our finance team to work through the information and the details on that so we can report to you on that.
Mr. Mayor.
Just query on page 24, contracts awarded. And the top one, well, let's use the top one, Rooney's, value 4.2 million awarded, great. Then the estimate, 3 million. What's the estimate? What's that figure for?
A dangerous estimate is the figure that Becca used when they did the design of the project, and based on previous year's pricing.
We never had that, when we let that tender, we never had that estimate in it.
Because recently we've been seeing the opposite to that, where the estimate's been a lot higher than the actual. This is the first one that's swung the other way for some time.
So the estimate would be the budget?
Possibly we would have based the budget on that, on the initial estimate. That would have been done some time ago. But in our tender evaluation, which we presented to you, we're not using those estimates anymore because they aren't realistic with the current tendering environment. So we did, in that process, look at the lowest price as a reference for our tender evaluation.
Yeah. So estimate used to be more budget / estimate.
Yeah.
So we need to know what their budget is.
I hear the comment through you, Mr. Chair. I think the word estimate is not the right number to have in there. What we need to have in there is the budget. Yeah. Because some theoretical bit of work the consultant did some period of time ago is not the thing to compare, because whatever we had in the budget is the determinant of whether it was good buying or expensive, or the trend around contracting prices. So I think we should change that to the budget, and that'll be a more meaningful comparison for councillors.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. And just note the TTM, which is traffic management, I understand. Yeah, that's good to have the figure, identifies what it is, and you look at the top one, it's a lot of money, but that's not 10%, it's 5%, right, yeah. But over. It's good information to have, which tells us what it's costing us for those road cones.
The good old road cones. Councillor Wilson.
Could you comment on perhaps the need to be, because an estimate or the budgeted figure is only out because there's a delay between when it was done, I'd hope, and the time we let it, or the person estimating it is not good at their job. So the two things, is it, are we getting them tighter together? Because that's the critical fact. If you're going to do something, you put a price in, get it done then before it gets eaten away by inflation or costs change. So are we doing that?
Through Mr. Chair, there is another factor, of course, and that is how the market responds. And so you don't know how the market is going to respond, because what we do find is that various contractors will either have plenty of work and are just sort of testing the market, or they've got very little on and they put in a really sharp price. So yes, delays are part of it. Yes, the accuracy of the budgeting is part of it. But you're still left with the uncertainty of the marketplace when you tender the work and get the final cost.
Yep. This is also our first contract let to Rooney's for this type of project, so, yep.
I would probably differ to that, because I would say that once if you're pricing something, you can just price it on the cost per metre and say this is what it's going to cost you. But someone pricing should be taking into account the market conditions, because that's why you're going to them. Otherwise, we could do it internally and just measure it out and go, well, this is what we use and that's what it's going to cost. So you would hope that the two do have a bit of tension to link them together.
Of course, my comment really is based on the extraordinary range of prices we get in the marketplace for any particular tender. And so if any one of those participants in the tender didn't take part, the range of prices would be significantly different. And if it was the winning tender didn't take part because they had plenty of other work on, then the price would be quite different. And so that it is a material factor, the way the market responds to the tendering, to the final price of the job.
Councillor Hooper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Neil, are we sort of maybe seeing a bit of a swing? I said both those top two, the estimates are below the value. Is the good shopping not as good anymore? Is there a swing there, or is it just in water compared to different, still good shopping and roading?
I think it's very competitive at the moment. It still is. It's maintaining that competitive tendering environment. I haven't seen it changing much. So it's still good for us. We're getting good prices, but what it means for the contractors is that they're having to cut their margins significantly. So it's not good for the whole industry, but for us it's pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cameron.
Just with regards to tendering, can we take advantage for future projects with existing tender prices? Like, can we lock in future projects at existing prices if you feel it's good buying? Is that?
So what we have done previously is when we have had really good competitive rates and we do have money left in the budget, we have brought a report to council saying, would council be willing to bring forward work that's been scheduled in the next 2 years and use the current expenditure? And it has been done in the past. So, and we'll do that again if
Because I was thinking even a work
significant
plan for like next April.
Yes.
You're currently tendering, and you feel you're getting a 20% discount on the current market rates. Well, that would be.
Yes, so we'll bring
great
it to
take
council, and
advantage.
if you would like to do that or rather take that saving,
So
it'll be your decision.
You do that anyway, yeah.
Hamish.
And it's always a balance and a judgment call, because it could be that in April it's 30% less because the market's got tougher. And so the way in which we try and minister the procurement policy is to balance all those things up and try and get the very best price we can for the work.
Councillors, we did jump to the procurement. No, there were no questions around the financials. We get that update, so looks like we're fine. So, thank you.
Yes, through the chair, as mentioned before, an update in regards of Montalto, what's happening at the moment and what we have done. So throughout June, we provided a feedback to Tomata Arawai in regards of their consultation process on the acceptable solutions for mixed-use rural water supplies. We shared that with you through Stella. We haven't heard anything officially back yet, but we are working on it, that we could use UV systems who are not, what's the right word? Validated, correct. Thank you very much, Andy. Which will bring the costs down. In that regard, we are in contact with Tomata Arawai as we speak. We are looking together now with Tomata Arawai what is acceptable for them, what we need to do in Montalto, and we are expecting that something is coming back to us by today, and we will then reassess the costings related to that guidance we will receive back from Tomata Arawai. In between, we are still working with the community here, specifically with James Wright, to do a trial with these unvalidated UV and cartridge filtration systems, and as well with water tanks on site. We are looking at the moment to do that for 3 sites. We have budget available to do that, and we will identify shortly the 3 locations where we would like to install them. going back to the community and explain what we want to do. But this is really heavily based as well on the feedback we will receive today from Tomata ROI.
So then, oh, sorry, Hamish, you.
No, I don't want to interrupt your question, Mr. Chair. This is another comment I wish to make.
Okay, so
at the
so
right
once
time.
you've installed those 3 units, obviously there needs to be then close monitoring, and there'll be comparisons with the one next door, say, that doesn't have a unit and the one that does, and see what our readings are. So will we be asking the people to take those water samples, and or will we be going up there to collect them? How are you going to organise that system, or you haven't quite thought that far ahead?
No, we have thought that through, so we will get automatic replies through systems we are putting into the network to get an understanding what kind of raw water is coming in, what the composition is, and as well what's coming out at the end after the treatment, and what the ratepayer will receive, or property owner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the, I think the program of work makes really good sense, in the care being taken to find both an acceptable solution but at a reasonable cost for the 35 people that are 35 connections on the Montalto system. However, the real pressure internally is in how do we prepare our water services delivery plan for the local water done well reform. And of course that's coming to you in the next couple of weeks and has to be lodged with DA on the 3rd of September. And what capital sum should we provide in that plan for having the Montalto scheme fully compliant? And at the moment it is a very large number for 35 connections. And I'm not happy that that number is reasonable, nor is it likely that council at any point would invest this sum for such a small number. But equally, in the absence of some clear advice as to an alternative, what should our water services delivery plan contain? And it is quite material in terms of peak debt, in terms of the capital program, in terms of having compliant solutions for all public supplies. So it is vexing us at the moment as to what we should provide in that plan. The work makes sense in terms of taking time and care, but we don't have that time to fully develop an acceptable solution, because the water service delivery plan has to be lodged in about 5 weeks' time.
So if you get this information today that says Tomata ROI will approve these units for you to trial, and it is only a trial because they need to work, obviously once they're installed, could that alter the budget if you get that information? Or is that a risky approach to take?
I know that makes sense at one level, but as I understand, the real problem is the backflow prevention, not the UV treatment. Okay. And so what we're really looking to from Tomata ROI is how should we deal with backflow prevention. So let's assume that the UV units work, and that's a reasonable assumption in my view. That's going to be only a tiny portion of the cost of a fully compliant supply because of the backflow prevention. So what we are desperately waiting for is some sort of guidance around the backflow prevention and the chemical contamination risk as opposed to the bacterial risk. And we're not yet clear on that, and the trial presumably won't give us much guidance, and it certainly won't be ready in time, regardless of what Tomata ROI tell us today. So it's a bit of a rock and hard place for the purposes of the delivery plan.
So there's 2 parts to this supply. One's the actual safe drinking water, and then the other's the backflow prevention. So
that's correct, which is strongly connected, and I think it's still part of an assessment on the costing, on the options we will have then after Tomata ROI is coming back to us. What Councillor Cameron was saying, that we need to assess as well then the cost in regards of keeping maybe private supplies living, so maybe don't have a community scheme in place for Montalto. But that's part of a discussion we need to have here at the council and as well with the supplies out there in Montalto.
That's right, but we have absolutely no time to have that discussion and come to a conclusion on that in the 5 weeks we have left to prepare the water services delivery plan. And one of the things that's vexing us is, do we take a very high estimate of work that is almost certainly not going to proceed and poke that in the plan, or do we make a more pragmatic decision, but then just pluck a number out of the air because we haven't got the guidance on it? So when you get the Water Services Delivery Plan, ultimately Council has to adopt that. You'll see the impact of Bontalto in that plan and have to come to your own conclusions around the uncertainty that it creates.
Councillor Lovett.
Will each house on the scheme ultimately have to have a filtration unit plus a tank?
You know, each house has to get a clean water supply. So the way in which we do that is the discussion, but they are entitled to a compliant water supply.
Yeah.
So we could put a water treatment plant in and do completely new reticulation. That would do it, but it's a massive cost. So what we're trying to find is a compliant supply at a reasonable cost for the small number of households involved.
A challenge not only us will be facing, I feel, through the country at this time, but yeah.
And I have to say that Te Matarawai are being very constructive in their engagement approach, and they are also they understand the situation that it's in, and they're not being dismissive or bureaucratic about the way they're discussing that issue with us at the moment. But that still hasn't yet led to a clear answer on what is acceptable.
Thank you. So you'll just keep us up to date with as this goes along. Thank you. So that's it for this.
That's, yeah, for...
Okay, just before we go out, any further questions from anyone before we go out of the open meeting? No? Someone like to move, please, that we go into committee?
Happy to move.
Councillor McMillan, Councillor Hooper, all those in favour? Carried, thank you.